It is time actually for our last talk of the Live Ops track, which is a panel. The panel will be moderated by Stephen Lee from DECA Games. I think he's joining right now. Hey, Stephen.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Nice to see
Yeah,
you as always.
yeah, absolutely. I see that your panelists are one by one joining as well. I will leave it up to you to introduce them.
Very good, thank you.
All of them. So I will shut up and I'll leave you to it.
Thank you. Let's see, is everyone here? Almost everyone. I think that's everyone, yes. Awesome. Well, yeah, good day everyone, or good morning to some of you in North America. Really a pleasure to be here in this panel, and I'm really honored to be moderating such a esteemed group of industry veterans. Today we're here to speak about live operations, and I think most of the people tuning in are familiar with live operations, and I think it's definitely become an increasingly important part of the games industry. So I'm excited to dive in with all of you. Before we do that, I'd love to go around and give each of you a chance to introduce yourself, introduce your company, what you're working on, where you're located, and I always like to throw in a personal question as well. So why don't we also share what game that you've most recently been hooked on or addicted to, or maybe even spent money on. So I'll start. I'm Steven with DECA Games. I'm based in Berlin, Germany. At DECA Games, we help developers to take over operations of their existing live games. So that provides developers with more flexibility to focus on more important projects. Personally, I'm still playing a lot of Marvel Strike Force on mobile. I find that game pretty addictive, and I like supporting those guys who I'm very friendly with. So with that, why don't we go to Mark next, because he's left on my screen. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Stephen. Yeah, so I'm Mark Val, so I'm part of Azure Play Fam. So I've been in the online industry for about 20 years. I've built studios for Ubisoft and Unity. And these days I'm playing Warzone with some cousins and friends, simply to shoot each other up, which is great. On mobile, I'm actually back on some Supercell games just to see how it changed in the last 3 years, because they always do a lot of updates. And but I'm playing just too many games. But these are the top two right now. Thank you.
What about Chris? Why don't you go next?
Oh, yes, I'm Chris. I work for Mag Interactive. We're a mobile free-to-play developer based in Stockholm and Brighton, and I am beaming out of the Brighton studio today. Yeah, we're not a massive studio, maybe about 100 people in total, but our biggest new game is called Wordsy, and it's a tile-based word game like Yahtzee. Yeah. It's really good.
And what game have you been playing most recently, Chris?
Most recently, I've been hooked on a new release called Frontier Justice, mainly because it's a Western game. It's sort of like, I don't know, like Desperados. That's kind of sort of gameplay I kind of like. Reminds me of that.
Cool. Thank you. And Ollie?
Hey, yeah, I just introduced myself on the previous talk, but I'm Ollie. I work for Bombay Play. As you might have guessed, that's based in India. And we make kind of social casino card games. What I'm playing is, well, it's a bit cliche, but I play a lot of PUBG right up until it was banned in India, which made me very sad, as I had an account with over $1,000 on it. But, you know, could always VPN, so there's still a silver lining there.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Albert, take it away.
Hi, I'm Albert. I'm Director of LiveOps Product at Square Enix Mobile Publishing. We're based in London, and yeah, I'm overseeing a full team of product with PMs, producers, analysts, you name it, and other roles. And we're like, and responsible also for the portfolio that we're having here in the company. Yeah, and it's been in the industry for quite a few years, always in product roles. And yeah, right now, in terms of games I'm playing a bunch, but the ones that right now I'm enjoying the most, I would say Archero, Trivia Royale, it's fun, and Epic 7 also. I'm on these three mainly.
Super, thank you. Great, so let's dive in. Thank you for the introductions, everyone. So I guess the title of today's panel, which was so generously provided to us by the folks at Pocket Gamer, Stop Shooting Your Game in the Foot, the damages of not starting live ops early. So I think that actually implies quite a few things. A lot of us actually in the past have launched games or shipped games where you just kind of you focus on the development and the game is shipped and you kind of sort of move on, or you know, figure out what to do with the game after that. But I think increasingly that has started to change in our industry. So I'd like to talk about you know, damages of not starting live ops early, and what does that mean to you guys specifically? And is there an ideal time, for example, to start thinking about and implementing live ops? Anyone want to jump in on this one?
Sure, I can start. Well, obviously, for any games that is live today and doesn't have live ops, there's a lot of technical debt that will come, both in the client and in the tools required to operate it. But the most, should I say, important part is that if you have the same team moving from, should I say, a waterfall type of production to a more iterative and dialogue, there's a lot of education and alignment that needs to be done in the team, and the whole process of iterating with live ops obviously is extremely different than having a box title. And so it could be clash. It's a business decision. There's people that don't necessarily like to go through this process necessarily. It's way more intensive. You're once you have found the success, it's there's a lot more work to be done. We've been saying for a very long time that, you know, building the game is half the work, and the other half is building the live ops part. And some teams actually are 10 people building the game, and then you have, you know, 50 plus people operating the game. So obviously for the C-levels all the way down to the customer support, there's a lot of change and alignment that needs to be done. And if nothing gets aligned, then you cannot accelerate. The goal of live ops is really to go fast, to find the golden nuggets. So I'll say, yeah, so these are the two major parts, which is team alignment and obviously the whole technical depth that comes with it, which can be very hard to and very long to get back into.
Okay. Anyone else want to have a different or similar viewpoint that would like to add some color?
Yeah, I have a go. So I think the way that we've done it historically at MAG in the past is we've thought about live ops after we've got a product. Like WordBrain is one of our games that I manage, and we're shoehorning tools into that to make it easier to live operate. And it's not the best experience. It doesn't allow us the flexibility we need to give our players what they want. And it's slower, and our team's very small, and, you know, we can't get as much done. So with our new titles, we've got bigger teams, and we're thinking about live ops like far ahead. Like, we've thought about the roadmap way before the developers on the features have even thought about exactly how they're going to do it. So what we need ahead of time, and I think that's the key. It makes it a lot easier to maintain in the future.
Okay, that's super interesting. So, so specifically for the developers that are tuning in right now, Chris, at what stage are you guys actually planning the live ops side for the latest game?
Well, so we've got like a roadmap of like 9 months of features, and we've already like planned the live ops for that 9 months ahead already. And we're working alongside that game team to deliver the features we need to be able to deliver the game team's features to the end players.
Okay, and this is the first time in your studio's experience that you're approaching it from this perspective in terms of the timing of the live ops, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's mainly because the live ops team's only been around for 2 or so years in our company. And we're working on like old catalog games, as you like. The live ops is just now a feature, but we're going to be like part of all the other games going forward, like from the start.
Okay. Ali, Albert, what about you guys? What is your experience in terms of the timing? When are you guys typically starting to consider live ops and plan around that?
Sure, I'll just add on to something Chris was saying. Like being live ops ready before you go out is even no matter how small your team is, you should certainly have something in place. Like maybe it doesn't seem important while you're building the game. Like hey, do we really need to account for this scenario, that scenario? But I'll give you just 2 examples. When you launch a game, maybe you want to tune the balance. How do you do that? Like if you don't have your economy sheets, and if your designers aren't even able to upload their new economy balancing to the servers without crashing the game or going through several developers, then you're in trouble. And it's very simple to get that set up ahead of time. And I think the second thing, sort of along the same lines, is like Bombay Play. We do card games. They're like kind of live multiplayer. So if you want to do a change to your server, for example, like do a game logic change and launch that, how does that affect the people who are playing right now? You know, you could end up like ruining the experience for your concurrent users. So how do you get set up for like the smooth? Like how do you actually update your game in a smooth manner? Is a problem like that new live ops teams actually end up running into and inadvertently like shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, absolutely. Like you should be considering live ops from that perspective, just how you do your updates, no matter how simple, from pretty much the inception of your economy design and just tech stack.
Yeah, I wanted to add here, like it's, first of all, I'm glad to hear all that my peers are saying. I'm very glad to have these conversations. I agree with absolutely everything. Honestly, it's really good. I would say like, I would just to add, let's start thinking since the beginning. I would say one of the things that we're doing right now with the developers that we're working, for example, is like, let's think about at least the user stories. Now we provide user stories. What do we want to do with the features, with the systems when they go live? Because as you guys said, if it's not planned in advance, it's a nightmare to do it later, and most likely it's going to generate technical debt. You're not going to be focused on improving some other areas. All the team will need to be focused here. So you need to consider all of these in advance. It's an exercise of abstraction somehow. But it's more than needed to invest on this tech also behind during the development of the game. So when you go to war launch, it's not that you launch absolutely all the live ops like crazy, but you have all these systems that, as you guys said, allow you to fine tune without breaking anything, or like to react to the players' life without being in a hassle and being eventually crashing the game, or like, I don't know, doing many deploys just for one single little change. Super key.
Cool. So yeah, it sounds like, Albert, you just mentioned a couple of things that will happen or ways that developers will actually shoot themselves in the foot if they don't think about it early. And I think if I'm understanding all of you correctly, the time to start thinking about live ops is basically as soon as you're starting to think about the game. So I think that's we're all in agreement there. One of you, actually, a number of you guys also just mentioned systems and tools. I'd like to dive into that and maybe give some of the people tuning in some practical things that they could potentially be using for their own development and for their own success of their own games. So are there specific tools or technologies that you guys are using, systems, for example, that have worked really well? Feel free to name and be specific as possible. Mark, I'm sure you have a few that you can also name, but yeah, I'd love for you guys to share specifically, what are you guys using in your games that has worked really well for you from a live ops perspective?
Okay, I'll go first. So we use Firebase a lot. So we've got all the Crashlytics, the push notifications, things like that. They're all handled within that system. We also have a lot of internal systems, so unfortunately they're not available, but the things that those systems do are the same across many tools. So like segmentation, A/B tests, updates over the air, like forced update, just there's tons and tons of things. And there's like many tools out there, but we mainly use Firebase and then our internal tools. But yeah, these like ways to deliver new functionality are pretty standard. Yeah, and we use them a lot and really benefit. I think A/B testing and segmentation are prime examples of really good tech.
Okay, and the internal tools, those are things that you've built in, like proprietary tech that you guys have built in? Okay.
Pretty much. And because obviously we've been going like 10 years, so we've built these tools to do the same functionality, but before other tools like Firebase and PlayFab, I guess, have got right up there.
Got it. Okay. What about the rest of you guys? Are you also using internal tech, or are there third-party tools that you guys can recommend?
Can I be a bit cheeky? And I'll just say the main tool we use is our brain. And
nice.
Just trying to plan for these scenarios, right? I mean, a lot of tools like Firebase facilitate like over-the-air updates, cloud storage, etc. It's not like rocket science to know that, to do that, but where you need to employ the real tool is in the execution, right? So when you do, like, what is the flow here? What is the user experience when they log into the game and there's a new update? So if you're a small team, like in our case, we tend to, we do very simple things, not so fancy. Maybe there are tools that allow for sort of streaming and all this sort of fancy stuff. But, most people just say, okay, just stop, update the JSONs, like update your economy, then move on. Just try and think of the most simplest solution to solve for live ops. That tends to work up until the point you're trying to optimize. And then I feel like more advanced logic can start kicking in.
Great. Anyone else with any final thoughts in terms of tools or technologies?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I could go on and on, but I think I'm going to let Albert go before.
No, I just honestly, with external partners in terms of tools, didn't have that much experience yet, because all the tools and the systems that we were developing previously at Social Point, where I was working, were internally. We really developed, as this is core of the business, and we understood it was core of the business already in 2015, 2016, when we started with all of that. It was developed internally. What I can say, and this was allowing us to run, as we were counting this, 400 live ops per month in one of the games, and that allows a lot of flexibility and be able to reach the numbers that actually the game is still reaching, sometimes entering again in the top 100 Monster Legends after being live for 6-7 years. That's quite impressive. So yeah, I'm glad of my previous team. But what we're doing at Square Enix now, it's a mix of, like some of you guys said. So we're trying to develop some of the internal tools with some of the external partners that can plug in. for all these terms of segmentation, pushes, and at the end creating something that would allow us to do changes in the systems, in the games live without having to go again through deploys and a bunch of files and JSONs that go crazy. Ultimately, all these tools should be able to be managed by someone that is not tech. All these tools should be able to be managed by your live ops manager or a PM or live ops specialist. So it's like they have to be built like that. And right now we're working on this at Square Enix.
Thank you, Albert. I think that's a really important point in being able to design the systems or have tools in place such that non-technical team can actually use that. So thank you for highlighting that. We actually have some live questions, so I'd like to, that seem relevant. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some of these at you guys if you don't mind. We have one from Sai. It says, please suggest a tool for A/B testing to track custom metrics like level progression, ads watched, etc. Does anyone have a...
Yeah, I can answer that, and I'll answer the previous question as well. I think
Awesome.
that before, like, thinking about the tech stack is about really have a common understanding in the project / team about what you're gonna monetize. So if you're advertising based versus virtual goods versus premium content, the stack is different because if you are aiming for advertising, then what you're selling is the players, it's not the game. So you need behavioral psycho traits and understanding of the spending habits of the players and also how much they are worth when they're when the ad is being clicked. And then for virtual goods, then we go into all what I call the tools that you operate in the future. So it means that you have to be ahead of what's happening now by at least 3 weeks to a month to 3 months. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that you need a full CMS for your game? Obviously, you need to be able to segment and later A/B test. And to do this, you need a proper pipeline to be able to version, to target geographically. And when you're doing those hot deploy, which means that the game is live and you're changing content, it means that you need also a railing system. So a railing system means that you're going to target a small amount of your players to test out if the end-to-end scenario that you're pushing is actually working properly. And obviously, through all that, you're going to need your analytic tools that needs to give feedback to your game designer, monetization strategist, to be able to see if the change that they have input actually is doing the aspect that they want to bring up. You need a calendar to be able to forecast which events are going to come in the future. If you're making monetization events, retention events, or maybe you're making an update so that it's shared across all the verticals of the team. You need your administration layer to be able to give access, remove access to everyone, because when you're operating a live game, you're going to have multiple tools, but also multiple services through all of that. Obviously, you have the game services, such as leaderboard, or if you have tournaments or multiplayer tools, or maybe you have voice chats. So all of these needs to be maintained in a pool of servers worldwide. And then we go to the planning scenario where you can have your backlogs that needs to be attached with the crash analytics that you're probably going to have somewhere. And all of this needs to be bubbling up in 3 different verticals. So you're going to have the support, the community management, and also the analytic with the guts of the game designers. So these 4 parts of the team needs to be able to understand what's going on through all of these various pipelines to come with the decisions that they're going to start producing in release and forecast what's going to happen, because more or less everything that you're doing is only forecasting. So in a nutshell, it's a lot of tools, but it starts really by having a client that is very much being able to be dynamic and being able to be changed on the fly. And then that trickles all the way down to the shop and to the buttons, colors, once you have a successful game. Well, yeah, definitely a lot of tools.
That was amazing. I think we could have encapsulated that into like a mini talk. That was Very informative. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. That's going to be it for today. No, I'm kidding. So I guess I'd like to talk about more specific examples. So Albert, you previously mentioned your positive experience at Social Point. I'd love for each one of you gentlemen here today to highlight an example of a game. It could be a game that you guys have worked on, or with your partners, for example, where you really thought that they did a really good job of live ops, and feel free to point out one aspect of that you really liked. If it's not an example from your own experience, it could be with a game that you're playing from a personal level, or a game that you've seen yourself where you're like, okay, wow, these guys are really doing it right. I would love for each of you to share an example of your favorite or most gratifying or most impressive live ops experience. Let's go ahead and start with you, Chris, since you were leading us off earlier.
Okay, so I was just putting up some notes, but basically I would say that for us as a company, I think our word domination game has done a pretty good job of live ops. I mean, it started off as a multiplayer game, and we tracked usage and player feedback, and moved into like a solo game mode against like bots and other players as well. I think it's just kind of adapted to give players more choice in the game. Yeah, that's one of the things, and we added subscriptions as well, so that the players can, I guess, opt in to get more exciting features and items to share and brag about, and sort of, highlight that they're really good at this game. Yeah, I think word domination.
Cool, thank you. What about you, Ali? Is there an example that you have that you want to speak about?
Sure, we've worked on a bunch of casino titles, so I'll kind of go from that angle. Where in casino, I mean, there is content like new features, events, and all of that stuff, but that tends to come a bit later. When we, just as like a small team, we launched a game called Teen Patti here in India, which later grew to like 3.5 million daily active users. But we didn't go broad on that game initially. We went deep. We really had to understand what was in casual casino, you really got to go deep into the user behaviors, and what really drives monetization. At what point do people monetize? And how do you match make people when they join a table? That's kind of thing. And once we really cracked that nut, we were able to scale up the game quite significantly. There was also in casual casino, there's a whole lot of economy balancing. I mean, there is in every game, but your economy, if it goes out of whack in casino, I mean, you're trying to build effectively like a zero-sum kind of game where people are betting against each other. And there's a rake and all that stuff. It just really like fine-tuning the numbers little by little, month on month, until you find that small thing, that small knob you can turn to really drive monetization. And it's so satisfying when you finally get there. It's just, and it seems so simple when you do get there, but the amount of time it takes and dedication in your live ops data science, just to break down your user behaviors and find that moment is colossal. So that's probably my proudest moment, not only in my previous startup, but in my current as well. Just finding that one knob that really drives success.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Albert, Mark, any of you guys?
Yeah, I think that there's still today, but also in the past 20 years, a game that executed live ops in a way that is quite unique. If we look at the various styles that happened more recently, obviously there's Fortnite that made the wave in the news everywhere. If you're able to reach the level where you're making an event and it goes in the broadcast of the TV networks, it means that you're successful. It's literally about bringing new players on board, but also making sure that the current one are sticking. But if I go back a little bit, one of the best experience I had in the last like 4 years was with a game made by Lilith Games. So it was Art of Conquest. So when it released, it was, the way it works first, it's per server. So everyone is part of their own server, and which means that everyone is segregated into the pool of players that are playing. So it means that the community is very much alive, and there's a lot of exchanges. Now it changed a lot. Now the game went in the way that it's very much pay to win. But there was a time where they were releasing updates with a cadence of 3 weeks, but the updates were gigantic, and then the community were always in AOE, and I was tracking on the side with various tools what's going on with the community retentions and all these things, and also the payment, and you could see everything going up at every updates. And it's a good feeling to be part of seeing the community being alive, accepting the change, and also moving upward. I mean, at DECA Games, you guys have made some tremendous good examples as well of communities that were there for years and years and nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden the team takes the game and move it forward, and everyone is like, "Why? Let's go forward," and people are happy. So there's two answers to that. So there's the answers of live ops, which are on a cadence of 3 weeks to a month, but more like seasonal. And then there's the daily life party style, which is that every day there's something new. And I think those two needs a topic on their own, an actual panel just about that. But yeah.
Right.
That's it for me.
Thank you for the shout out. I did not pay you for that, but maybe I will later. We have just a few minutes left, but I did want to talk to you guys about forward and looking ahead. I know we talked about where live ops has come from and how things used to be. Some of you have alluded to kind of the future. I'd love to take a minute or two to talk about that. So where do you guys see live ops headed in the future? Because obviously it has continued to evolve over time. You guys spoke a little bit about community, which I think is a really important aspect, but I'd love to hear some thoughts, if you could share them for the audience here, about where do you think live ops is headed? Where do you see things developing? What are your general thoughts or crazy ideas that or maybe even things that you would like to see in the future in terms of how games are handled from a live ops perspective?
I can see here how I see the evolution of the live ops in the free-to-play system. So I would say back in the days, I would say 7 years ago, and even 8, 9 at least, it was more like, live ops is, people understood live ops as a discount in hard currency. She's like, live ops is monetization only, and it's just to do that. It's far away from that. No, I would say that live ops now and then, it was to manage the live game, honestly, and making the game fresh for the users, constantly introducing a game. Is a game as a service. It's not a console or PC game. So it doesn't only touch monetization. Live ops touch retention, touch engagement. It touches everything, and should be very connected to the players, to the player base. So you always should be like really player centric. See once you build the game, it keeps evolving. See what the players want, which are like the metas, for example, that are in the game that are more trending, that are like really what they like. At the end, you always need to go for what the player wants, not for your customer. What do they want? And keep building these features and these live ops events that move toward that. I see, it's not by coincidence, I would say that when you take a look at the most of them, I would say top grossing games that are in the charts, they have really, really good systems to do live ops, because live ops is not manual stuff. You can systemize and automate a lot of stuff. That's critical. We've mentioned it before, but they really have good systems, and they really know what the player wants at different levels of, and each stage, the player life cycle, beginner, or a middle stage, after 1 year playing the game. So it's like, things going to be more and more relevant. What I've seen in the evolution is that people are starting, some of them late, some of them early in the times, seeing the relevance of the live ops and seeing that it's not something that is a part, but it's part of the main game. No, as we said before, when you already developed and concept the game, you're already thinking of that. More and more people and teams are trying to are seeing this right now, and I think it's going to evolve more towards that. And my opinion, we're going to see like also more companies with expertise doing live ops, helping other developers that they lacking this expertise. And I would say like I think we're going to see like more and more tech towards the live ops on how to automate, how to simplify, and how to really make changes live in the game without damaging your current players and being able to offer them something new.
I would agree with Albert on that one. Maybe it's a bit of hopes and dreams, but I really hope that live ops gets smaller in terms of team sizes. Like working at, Experience, we had a Glue at Zynga, 100 person live ops teams. And, everything was kind of manual. But now I think we're starting to see success with smaller teams. And hopefully like automation, especially in the ad space, we've seen really good automation kind of reduce the requirement for kind of acquisition, like large acquisition teams churning out creatives and stuff like that. And I really hope that this level of automation finds its way into other functions as well, just so you can just focus on just building the stuff.
Cool. We actually have two related questions from the audience and just a few minutes left. So I'd love to throw the questions at you guys and see if we can get some answers. One is to Ali and Albert, what are the most effective process or tools of analyzing user behavior, finding the perfect knob / motivation in Teen Patty and Monster Legends?
So Albert, do you want to take it, or I'll go ahead?
Go ahead. You're ready.
I'll go later. I was reading the question.
I mean, for us, it's no one magic tool here. I'm sorry, I wish, but having a function that looks into that, we did nothing more complicated than like track a whole lot of things and have data scientists really troll through that and, do that over and over and over again until you work out what that knob is. I hope one day there'll be a tool that tells you, hey, this is, just do this, man. But it doesn't exist. Hard work is the only answer.
I would, as Oli said, I would say it's like dedicated teams. So it's really, I wouldn't say it's like you really need to, depends on the size of the companies. That's why sometimes you go to externals. It depends, but it's a matter of really the relevance that it has to find all of this. And it's not like something that you do it in the evening after you've worked like on other features. Like you need a dedicated team. Usually it has analysts, usually it has product managers, live ops managers, and it's just about analyzing data, patterns, and a lot of player experience managers that we haven't mentioned too much, but it's very linked to that. You really have to have very experienced managers in the social channels, Discords, etc. You really need to be in contact with your users. What do they want? Most of the times, you will detect symptoms in what they say. It's not that you really need to do directly what they're mentioning, because most of the time it's like, give me everything for free. That's not the kind of the things that you want to hear, but you need to understand what is behind these reasons and try to figure out. And this, which is information with users, qualitative plus data, which is quantitative, and a good team of PMs, live ops, etc. This is how you fine tune. Instead of a tool, it's a team.
Got it. Okay, so we've got 3 more questions. I want to see if we can get to them. We've only got 2 minutes left, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So from an anonymous attendee, your thoughts on AI/ML for balancing game automatically? Can you guys see that question in the Q&A? Anyone want to take that?
Unless there's anyone else, I'll just give a...
Go for it. We're short on time.
Slightly controversial answer to this, but there are very fancy tools out there that will give you predictions, but the simple assumptions often take you 80% of the journey. If somebody is losing a lot, make them win, just do the basic stuff. I mean, I'd say start with that kind of experiment before you start diving deep into more advanced ML.
Cool, thank you. Final question, because one of them got taken off the board. How do you connect live ops with UA? Anyone have some insights on that one?
Well,
I think some of you alluded to it with the data part. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sure. So user acquisition per se, you need to be able to track the user journey from the moment that you see the ad to all the way down to when you convert. So it means there's a huge pipeline behind it of tracking. You have to make it all anonymized so that you are compliant with all the GDPR and other privacy policies worldwide. And but by any means, like the to make live ads per se has been tried in the past with some level of success. And some of these ads were actually turned into games afterwards simply because they were just so popular. And that's quite funny to see in the app sectors. So by any means, like UA is marketing, so you have to be creative. The more thing you try, the same as in the games, the same policies. So it means you have to gather the crowd, making sure you're targeting properly, and then do the same thing inside the game afterwards and try to get more of the same user. But definitely the cost per installs is always tricky. There is no new users per se. Everyone is on mobile nowadays. I think things will change in the next 5 years or so based on some technology I saw. But yeah, but the future is pretty bright for all content creators. Yeah.
One thing, the last thing I would add here is like that UA and live ops, which is at the end is product, need to be very, very, very linked. That's at least how I perceive it. Also, that's why, for example, UA is under my team in the product side. They need to be very linked. They need to speak. They need to speak on a daily basis. They need to understand. The UA needs to know everything about the game, and the product team, the PMs have to tell everything to the UA person. What are they trying to achieve with this feature, or this new event, or this new offer, or this new whatever? So it's just that combination that would link perfectly. So the UA will tell you, okay, now I get everything. I understand the game. I understand the competitors. I understand what you mean. I'm going to bring the players that we need in particular. So
Great.
they really need to be linked. It's not like two teams, just one team.
Super. And I know that there were some other questions that came in. For those of you that submitted the questions, thank you so much. I think you can definitely find everyone in this panel online through all the Pocket Gamer literature. Our contact details should be there. So please feel free to reach out to us collectively or individually. We're really grateful for that. And with that, I would like to say that we are up on time. Thank you so much to each of you panelists for the amazingly detailed responses and for sharing all of your experience. It's been an amazingly informative panel. So thank you guys very much.
All right. And thank you, Stephen, for moderating the panel so much.